mention them also. Riba, intishar, riba will be common thing. Riba is common. So it becomes normal. Zina becomes normal. Al-khamr becomes normal. Tatawul al-bunyan, where people will now go higher and higher in rising, in buildings. Especially in Mecca. So that there are narrations that say that the buildings would equal the mountains. I'm not making any hints here. That buildings would equal the mountains. In the old days, if you probably know, and those of you who are elderly, and you probably know, and you asked your fathers, they would tell you that the people of Mecca were so respectful that they would not raise any building over the level of the Kaaba. And they would not be in a home higher than the house of Allah. Their houses rather than in Mecca, I'm not talking 3,000 years ago, I'm just talking like 40, 50 years ago, something like that. Their homes were lower, their house is lower, he's lower than the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Like nowadays, we put the house of Allah under siege by all these big buildings. And now everywhere you look now, you don't even see the sky, you see buildings. Anyway. Alamat al-sa'a, al-kubra, this is kubra, big signs. And Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is talking big signs. Among the big signs, like the hadith that's mentioned where Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, where he says that people would rather raise a jaru, yani small dog, than raise children. Wow. At that time, in the Arabian desert, 1400 years ago, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam tells that some people would rather raise dogs than raise children. But anyway. Other things is disrespect of the rights of the people and the families and the severing of the connection of the family. Qat'ur rahim. You see now people over 100 pounds, brothers don't talk to each other. Over 1,000 pounds, families fight for generations. Alamatul kubra. The disrespect towards the elderly. Alamat kubra. The lack of mercy towards the youngsters, alamat kubra. All these alamat kubra. You all know them. They happened. And almost all of them has happened. Now what we have left is, what's left is basically Dajjal coming out. Isa alayhi salam descending. Ad-Dabba coming out, the eclipse, the coming of the sun from the west, and an-nafkh fi as-sur. When Israfil will call them. That's basically this is it. It's almost done. And we're almost there. And now even most of the big signs have already been established. So you already know these things. I'm not going to... What can you do? Can you do anything about the Dajjal coming or not? Can you do anything about the sun going from the west, coming from the west? Can you do anything... You already know, let's talk about something that we can actually talk about and do something about from the signs of the Day of Judgment. Because you don't want to be among those people that the Day of Judgment comes on. Then Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi tells us in the authentic hadith that the Day of Judgment will occur on the worst of people. Sharrun nas. There will be no people calling Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There will be all these things. The worst of people, you don't want to be there. So what are among the big signs of the Day of Judgment? Raf'ul Qur'an. The Sayyid mentioned that in Hadith ibn Majah. Raf'ul Qur'an. The Qur'an is elevated. What do you mean Qur'an is elevated? The Qur'an, you find thousands of copies everywhere. Elevation of the Qur'an from the dunya. That's among the big signs of the Day of Judgment. That's among the few signs you actually can do something about, in a sense. Others you have really not much control. When this comes, when that happens, Ya'juj and Ma'juj. Lakin the elevation of the Qur'an. Because the Qur'an is not only a alama. Alama yani means not only a sign, but also amana. Is not only alama, but amana. Amana means what? Trust